everyone. We're kicking off a very interesting series where we're talking to a number of known faces of Chennai on how they used to play, where they played, the games they played, who they played with, and how that play has impacted their lives and the memories they had. But before we delve into anything even remotely historic, it seems but natural to talk to somebody who has written about, talked about so much about Chennai and Chennai history. I'm sure he needs no introduction. V. Sriram, who is the author of over 30 books, the deputy editor of the Madras Musings, and who has curated numerous wonderful tours and walks, which many of us have been a part of and have learned so much about this beloved city of ours. So Sriram, long ago when I talked to him about games, said, I never played. So let's see what he has to say about his childhood. So Sriram, that's a very strange statement for anyone to make. I never played. But you must have played, no? You were a kid once, yeah?
I was, but the point is, I think it was more the circumstances under which one grows up. So I was an only child, and the cousins had all grown up and left the joint family by then. So I grew up under a fairly strict grandmother, who of course was an authority on arts and so many other things Indian, but sports never entered her horizon. So that was not there. And somehow as I grew up, and of course this was that's someday I must write about it, I was very bad in all sports. I tried it, and so I was absolutely useless, perhaps because I was too much of a daydreamer. So my mind was continuously distracted and I was not able to focus on the ball or on whatever was being played, whether it was Ludo or chess or whatever. I found that I had absolutely no affinity for sports.
So you never as a kid ran around, played,
it was
running and
always
catching?
Very cerebral games which I used to play with myself.
Like chess?
Chess, of course, in the sense that, to a certain extent, to some level, but in very basic level. But I was always very drawn to books and music.
And even in school?
Nothing.
So what did you do during sports day?
I used to hide.
Really?
I was uncomfortable with sports. I was fundamentally, I used to get upset stomachs before every sports class. I didn't like sports.
So I understand the outdoor sports. What about indoors with cousins, friends? Never played a game, Ludo, snakes and ladders?
But lots of games used to happen around me. Gradually, I think they all decided, okay, he's not interested. Let us leave him alone. And, maybe I was a little bit of a forbidding personality. Nobody ever thought of forcing me into playing with them or anything.
Maybe we need to change that one of these days. So while I know you never played games as a child, you as a parent particularly understand the importance of your children playing and the social interactions that went with it. So when I'm talking to people about these games, how important do you think it is for people to document how they played, where they played, things like this, literally the social history of play in Chennai?
See, one thing is, while I said that I was very bad at it, I have always understood that sports is an exceedingly vital element of good growing up. And my parents tried to get me into it, but it's just that I didn't. But I realized that you get your corners knocked off. You learn how to win and lose, which for me was a lesson learned over a long period of time, but which comes very easily for a sports person. Your focus and your concentration really improves. So I think games are exceedingly important. I'm not going to belittle them or say that it's so.
It just
I would be the last person to say that. I would just say that it didn't work for me.
Yeah.
But it's exceedingly important, and I really envy people who are born athletes or who play very well, who take to a sport very easily. So what is very interesting is that today the emphasis is more on highly competitive, very structured learning of sport. And in my opinion, it has taken the joy out of it a little bit.
Absolutely.
Because in our times when we were growing up, sport was something that happened around you, you created it. One narrow passageway could become a cricket pitch.
Yeah.
And 11 children would get together, or 15, or whatever it was.
Or even
That
3
didn't
children.
Yeah, 3. And all the wooden windows would be banged by the balls coming and landing on them regularly.
All-
And that was one very common aspect. Then this playing of marbles
Yeah.
on the in the compound, sometimes in the street corner,
Yeah.
wherever they could find a place, they would
Absolutely.
be playing marbles. This was one thing. And then this hopscotch or palanguri and all that, you just
Pandi.
drew it on the mud,
Yeah.
pandi, and then you jumped on it, and then you played, and then you went away, and that was it, finished. And lots of friendships, I think, were made that way. Lots of barriers were broken that way. And as life went along, those contacts sometimes remained, sometimes they didn't remain. But I think
But the
those
memories
skills
stay.
and the skills,
Yeah,
which
true
were
that.
so absolutely important. I think a lot was learnt. I realized that I missed out on something. I mean, and I believe that they were absolutely vital. And so there was a lot of sport happening. On a rainy afternoon, you would find that people got together at home, and some old Ludo was pulled out. Carom was and in Calcutta, where I grew up later, Carom was a part of street corner. There'd be footpaths with carom boards set up, and
yeah.
people playing all
And
the
random
time.
people would come together, strangers.
Yeah, and they'd get together, they play. It was also a social integrator, and particularly in a city like Calcutta, where communal tensions could flare up, it was also a point where it could diffuse those communal
Absolutely.
tensions, and people could get by.
Get
We
much.
forgot to talk about how traditional games existed as part of hand-me-downs in families.
Please go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So the other element was today, of course, much of it is in plastic, and even that I don't find many houses having it. But we got a lot of hand-me-downs from elders in the family of indoor game sets. So, for instance,
Particularly palanguri.
Palanguri was big, but wooden ones,
Yeah.
hinged, opening up
Carved.
like this, and then you could play with.
Yeah.
I think it did something to your fingers. I don't know what it was. That was one. The other was you had these swings, unjals, where a chess set would be carved right into
In
the
the
middle of
middle,
it, and two people could sit and play on both sides. And then you had this dayakatam, where the dayam, that is the dice,
Made of
would
brass.
actually be brass, ivory,
Yeah.
and you could
Sometimes
have.
it'd be hollow with stones
exactly.
inside.
And so you could, you could use that. There was such a pleasure in picking up those things and admiring them and then using them. You also had Ganjifa cards that
Absolutely.
in Bengal particularly, they were big hand-me-downs among families where they would
Very
pass it on
expensive.
very carefully. And mahjong sets.
Yeah.
These were also big in terms of what was being given. And somebody, you would even have arguments. What happened to that mahjong set that was his grandmother? Who has it today? And where has it gone? And you people haven't taken care of it, and so on.
Yeah.
There's such a sense of ownership about
Correct.
these things.
The other thing which, since you're talking about traditional games, is in the Paraya Vitla Thinneliye, they would have, etched it so you can sit and play on the thin air. So
Correct.
neighbors would join in, everyone would join in, so that's something you don't see anymore,
Absolutely,
the
because
thin air,
that community-
the thin air itself has disappeared, and this whole concept
There's
of,
pressure on space.
yeah. So even here near Kapaleshwar temple, the house just outside, they have a beautiful Dayakatam on the floor. But you just don't see that anywhere anymore.
And those who have it also don't play on it.
Absolutely. It's just you're walking.
Yeah.
They're surprised when you go to photograph it because, it's like, oh wow, why? What is so important about this? So in the course of all these interviews I've had, some fascinating stories about how people paid on streets, and I myself grew up in Adyar, and I still remember playing just off LB Road, cricket, and the ball would, or football or whatever, the ball would go across the road. I mean, run across the road and pick up the ball. You can't even dream of doing that now. And these memories to me are so lovely because you kind of get a glimpse into how Madras used to be through the eyes of common people. And I know Mr. Muthaiya always used to say, people should document their memories. What is your own take on this?
I think it is absolutely vital, and that is also a documentation of the open spaces that once stood in the city and which are no longer open spaces. So, of course, I'm sure many children in this city will have memories of going and playing cricket matches in, say, some place like St. Bede's cricket ground.
Yeah.
It's such, or Vivekananda cricket ground. So these are all very vital aspects of life, of Madras United Club ground in North Chennai, or Bini, that what was it called, Hawk Field. There was an entire cricket field in the middle of Bini Mills, between two mills, Pulianthopu. So, people have grown up playing cricket in places like this. So this is one. And so when you look at of course, the school compounds are still there, but many of these open spaces have all vanished. For instance, if you ask somebody like V. Ramnarayan, the senior cricketer, he'll talk about how Alwarpet was once only rice fields and empty spaces. And so his whole family, which was all cricket, they all grew up playing that in the open spaces.
Yeah. And what was open spaces?
Exactly.
And playing on streets and gullies. In fact, it even is called gully cricket. Exactly.
Absolutely.
And that hardly exists anymore. And,
that it doesn't have to involve a coach. It doesn't involve having to play in leagues and going up and sporting cups.
There is no structure. And it can be cricket, it can be any damn game, but it doesn't matter.
Absolutely. So that, I think, was very vital. And today I'm surprised there are schools which are built without a sports ground. This school playing facility has been such a stress buster. They spend all their surplus energy in playing games in the school ground, and it's open to them even after school.
And they work off all
they work off all their angst and everything, and they become better children. You need that openness to be. So I don't believe in this concept where you just build a flat or you build a set of school buildings and say this is the school. Sport is such an element.
Games, play spaces.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sriram.
Thank you.
So we are going to put a little goal on us before the next Madras week. We are definitely going to get you to play a game.
Excellent.
So yeah, that's important. But so yes, as I said, we'll get you to play again.
Excellent. I look forward to that.
Thanks, Sriram.
Thank you.